Hello and welcome to Fireside History. Today, this is going to be an unusual episode, as today we're going to discuss one of the great men of the history of the Hittites. Now, to understand Suppiluliumas, we have to understand that he was the eldest, I think, and the most competent heir for his father's throne. Now, the trouble is Tudalia favored his younger son, Tudalia the Younger. And this created a bit of a sibling rivalry between Tudalia the Younger and Suppiluliumas, who, you have to understand, had accomplished all of these great reconquests, fought in all these great battles, all with the hope that he would be nominated the heir. And it's not that stupid an expectation. And it's possible Suppiluliumas was a second or third son, but the fact remains that he had done more than anyone to help the kingdom recover. And to be passed over for his brother, who, like I said, it's unsure if he was younger or older. He might very likely have been older, but this older brother had not done nearly as much as Suppiluliumas, and this apparently offended him. But he was forced to swear an oath of allegiance, and swore an oath to his brother when he became king, and many of the chief dignitaries of the land followed suit. Now, our main source here is Mershali, who, from his plague prayer, one of the great first prayers in history that we have a record of. Mershali was a very fascinating individual, very pious one. And in his plague prayer, he references how, as Tudalia the Younger was the master of the land of Hatti, the princes of Hattusha, the lords, the commanders of the thousands, the officers, the lower-ranking officers, the text just mentions the subalterns or corporals. I'm just translating it to lower-ranking officers here. The entire infantry and chariotry swore allegiance to him, and my father also swore allegiance to him. Now, real quick, when I say translate, I don't mean like I understand the shite. I just mean like the English version of the prayer I'm reading doesn't exactly specify the rank. I'm just proposing nice wording. Now, from what we can discern from here, Suppiluliumas swore an oath, but he was ambitious and felt personally aggrieved. And it's not hard to see why. I'm just saying. Now, I'm not excusing his later actions, but he did do all the dirty work. So to be passed over was probably a little offensive in his eyes. So, yeah. So the second son, or possible second son, of the royal blood decided to effect change. In his words, "But when my father wronged Tudalia, all the princes, the noblemen, the commanders of the thousands, and the officers of Hatti went over to my father. The deities by whom the oath was sworn seized Tudalia, and they killed Tudalia. Furthermore, they killed those of his brothers who stood by him." This is another part of the plague prayer. And, okay, for a minute I thought it was Suppiluliumas' words. My bad. But Suppiluliumas committed the worst crime in Hittite history that you can commit. He killed a member of his family. And not just that, his own brother. And he did it for the throne. Now, fratricide in the time of the Hittites was the worst crime you could commit. Like, if he was alive in the Anglo-Saxon period, he'd probably be a Nephling. That is to say, beyond the pall, cast out. But Suppiluliumas was an amazing political operator. And he had command of the military, so he could effect this coup d'etat without any real challenge. And as we learn later in the plague prayer, But now you, O gods, have eventually taken vengeance on my father for this affair of Tutalia the Younger. My father died because of the blood of Tutalia, and the princes, the noblemen, the commanders of the thousands, and the officers who went over to my father also died because of that affair. This same affair also came upon the land of Hatti, and the population of the land of Hatti began to perish because of this affair. Now, what this means is that it's believed that the Great Plague that swept over the Hittite lands at the time was believed to be caused by Suppiluliumas' murder of his brother. Now, this gives us great insight into the religious mindset of the Hattians. They believe that if you killed a family member, especially if you were royal and you did this, that it wouldn't just be inflicted back upon you, the individual, but everybody would suffer. We're all in it together, I guess you could say. And in this case, they're all in it to suffer together, or so it was believed. And Suppiluliumas' crime was thus believed to be passed down, I guess you could say in biblical terms, down to the 7th generation of sons. Like from passed down from father to son for 7 generations. And it's in this spirit that we have to understand that the Hittites make no bones about the wrongness that was committed against Tutalia, and that Suppiluliumas' coup was unacceptable in their eyes. Now, that said, his reign seems to overlap with Amenhotep III in Egypt. Amenhotep III was something of a sun king, and him and his incompetent, insane son Akhenaten kept substantial records of Suppiluliumas' reign, and foolishly they sought to maintain peaceful ties with him. A bit of the lamb making peace with the lion, I guess you could say, as Suppiluliumas may have endeavored to keep cordial ties publicly, but he was angling for everything they had. Egypt had, I mean. So, in that spirit, I'm going to refer the greater part of Suppiluliumas' wars to the next video, rather than getting into them now. As, well, today I just wanted to discuss the mindset the Hittites took to the great misdeed of Suppiluliumas, and just what he did that they condemned so much, despite the fact that they revered him as their greatest leader in their history, him and Mershali II. But anyways, if you like this video, like, share, subscribe, and leave a comment.